Today we're going to do that fun thing, questions and answers. I always enjoy that because I get to meet some people during that usually. And we're going to talk about bike paths, fenced-in yards, surge protectors, Architectural Review Board, and people that are all ticked off about that and many other things. Let's go ahead and get started. Hi everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson and welcome. This is a channel where we talk about things dealing with the villages, retirement, and all that kind of stuff. So let me say ahead of time, thank you very much for subscribing and liking, simply because it really helps out the channel when you do that. And when you do subscribe, please make sure you go to the bell and hit all, or you probably won't get notified about a lot of stuff. And speaking of stuff, I am going storm chasing and I start, maybe it's the day that this comes out. I leave on the 8th to go to Denver and I start chasing on the 9th. And I will be trying to broadcast live from that, so you'll be notified if I am live. Otherwise you won't, I guess. But I'll try to do that. It doesn't always work out when we're out there because we're out in kind of a bunch of strange places out there. But anyway, today, first off, I'm going to start off with just some people we met on a open house going around there. And I met a lot of great people while I was doing that watch the channel, so I really appreciate that. And then we're going to talk about a bunch of different items. Also, I've been doing shorts, so if you see those pop up around, I'm going to try to do those little short things, kind of help people out with different things. But let's go ahead and get started with, first of all, a couple of people I met on one of the open houses, and then we'll go right into the questions. Okay, as it happens, I was out here with Sonia, and Sonia's looking at homes down here, and I met, because we haven't even talked yet.
No,
What's your names?
My name is Kennett.
Kennett?
And Tom.
Tom, and they're from
New Jersey.
New Jersey. I did get that part.
You did.
And I guess you watch the channel?
Yep.
Yeah, so they did a lifestyle for a month, right? And now what?
We're down here for the month and we're looking around.
You rented a home for a month?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so how's it going so far?
Super good.
Yeah? I guess you like it. So we're actually in an open house right now. We're not in my place. My hair is messed up from pickleball. So what did you like so far the most?
What was yours, Sandhill Crane?
Yeah, looking at models. Yeah, looking at all
There's a lot of models to
homes.
look at. There's a lot to see.
Yeah,
A lot to go through.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And Sonia's just learning that right now, all the different things. But
And we just met some really nice people playing pickleball yesterday.
yeah.
Yep, giving us advice on what to do, what not to do. So that was good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, very
All right.
nice people live here.
Okay. You got anything, Sonia?
No.
Just a hi? Okay. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And hope you have a good month.
Thanks, Rusty.
Okay.
Nice meeting you.
Bye. Yeah, it was fun meeting those guys out house hunting out there, because it kind of reminded me when I was there going, you're kind of wide-eyed walking around. But I think what they did was really smart, renting for a month. I know Sonia was talking about that actually. She's thinking about moving down here and renting for a month also. So I think that may work out great for both of them. And anyway, I'm going to try something really different. I'm actually going to put some questions out to you guys. Now, do me a favor, check down in the description, because I'll say whether somebody finally answered them or not. First question is, does anybody know what these square pads are? And don't answer unless you really know what it is. I don't know, but out on my walks that I've been doing, I've seen some of the shorts, so you can tell that I passed by these pads, these square pads that are all over the place. They don't look like they're meant to be lift up. There's no hooks in them, so you can't lift them up. And there's nothing drilled into them as if they were going to mount something there. And it's not just local. I mean, they're all in the new areas. They're all over the place. And they're just square pads. So if you have any idea what those square pads are, please let me know. But make sure you really know what the answer is. Also, here's another one. Now, a lot of people ask me what I don't like about the villages. And eventually I'll probably do something about that. But one thing I really don't like is it seems like there's there's kind of a tussle with the medical world. And if you think about the Villages has grown immensely in the last 4 or 5 years or so. I mean, huge. But we don't have any more hospitals. Ding. Yeah, exactly. Now, about 1.5 years ago, they put out a map of the whole area south of, which is now Middleton and Easton and stuff. And on there, take a look at this. There was a big to-do about the wellness village. And this was supposed to be with a new healthcare system, like all healthcare, and a new hospital and everything. And then all of a sudden, it just disappeared. And I was really hoping that when the Morrises got up and talked at the last VHA, there was not a mention of it. So my question is, with something this big going on, what in the world happened to this hospital that was supposed to be there? And is the folks at the Villages and the developer even contemplating the stress that this has to be putting on the healthcare system? I'm not even sure whether we even have a trauma center anywhere down around here. So it's really kind of bothering me a little bit as I move down here and trying to gather up, quote, my specialists and everything. And I did a video on Medicare, not only Medicare, but I talked to a broker so she could cover the healthcare system, the Advantage program with the Villages plus the regular Medicare. So if you have questions about that, I definitely go back and read that, or watch that. But definitely, if anybody has heard for sure anything about this wellness village that just seems to now have disappeared. So with that said, those are 2 questions. I kind of turned it around to you guys and see what your knowledge is on that. Put that down in the comments. Sure appreciate it. And so let's get on to the first question from you guys. As many of you know, I used to play a lot of pickleball, and I have not really played in 3 months. Why? Because I actually had a hip injury dealing with a tendon, and I had to stop playing for a while. I mean, it was excruciating to say the least. But in the meantime, I started walking and exploring the Villages, and I have a bunch of these little shorts that I'm doing, exploring the Villages on foot, because that's my great exercise in the morning. It's kind of fun. And I get to see a lot of places. Well, I realized that there's not like one map that tells you where all these paths are that run all over the place. And the Villages touts it as this great active thing, and they spend millions and millions of dollars on these paths and planning them out and putting them out there. But on these videos, well, let's get to this question right here. And Bree Gillum, I'm not sure what that is, 2701 writes, so how did you find this walking trail? And I'll play this little video here on how you can. But what I used to do is I used to go just use the marketing images, and I'll show you one right here, if you can find them, that showed the trails. You can also use, if you go on to Google. But one way I found the most up-to-date ones is this, and I'll show you this little clip I made looking them up. Going over a year's time, I have called the Rex department 3 different times. I've called customer service. Nobody seems to know how to find in one place the bike paths, multimodal paths, a map of the walking paths. Now think about this. They spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on these paths, keeping up these paths of our money, and yet nobody can seem to figure out where they are. It's crazy. The best way I can find to do this is get onto a map, and it's really, this is the easiest way I know of. Go to villages.com, scroll down until you hit the 3 squares, right? And go to any one of them and hit map. And that will take you to the map of the Villages. And let's go down to St. Catherine, where I am, since I'm kind of familiar with it and it's some new areas, and zoom in on St. Catherine. And there they are, the walking paths right here. Very strange. And you can see them right here. These are the little bit wider paths, but there's also these paths that are smaller walking paths that kind of run all through these back areas. And the thing is, there's some really nice walks down in Newell and those new areas. If you come all the way down to here, the information doesn't look like it's on here yet. But anyway, that's not even built out yet. But you can see there are some paths that are pretty cool that run all the way back here. This is CR 470. And yeah, all over the place, but very strange. I almost want to say that with all the advertising about the walking paths in nature, that the Villages hasn't gone and put together one map digitally of the walking paths at the Villages. I mean, it's something we pay to keep up. It's something people obviously use. It doesn't matter whether you're 50 or 90. Everybody uses them. I don't know. I just find that kind of strange or funny. Hopefully somebody out there, maybe that's a question somebody else can answer, is where there is one map. And if you go back and look at the marketing map, they're really nice because they break them down into what type of path it actually is and so on, different color coded. But I don't know why when they have all that information, they don't have to print it out, just make one digital map that you click on. If you go to Pathways and Trails on the website, it takes you to the one I showed you, and that's it. That's all there is. So anyway, here goes another question that's kind of, a little stickler, because me and ARC, that's the thorn in my side right now. So David, Tanya write, they write, Rusty, we are purchasing a house in Fenney and took your advice. We had our agent check with ARC and found out the extensive landscaping that was done was never submitted for approval. You saved us the potential buyer's headache. Thanks, a big thanks. So what they're talking about is, first of all, I don't work for the Villages. I don't have a real estate license anymore. I used to have one out in California. There's a thing in real estate where you need to disclose certain things. And it varies state by state. Like I said, I am not here. But from talking to agents here in the Villages and other things, there is no disclosure statement or there is no disclosure about things being done to a home without ARC or ARC's approval. Here's the thing, folks. Listen to this loud and clear. If you do anything to the outside of your home, submit it to ARC. It only takes a second. It's easy to do. It will save you a lot of headaches down the road. So my suggestion, and if I was an agent and I was working for my client, I would definitely do this. If I was purchasing a pre-owned home, I would, just like these people did, and I suggested they do it in one of my videos, make your agent inquire about things that were done to the home. Bingo. That's it. Did you widen the driveway? Did you put in a deck? Did you paint the house? Whatever that is, and you're going to see this follow-on question deals with this, so you're kind of getting the answer to that already. Make the agent do that. Don't just suppose. Get it in writing. Heed that as a warning. Make sure you get your agents to inquire about things that were done to the home and have it disclosed. I know you're buying a house and you're getting all frenzied up and signing papers this way and that way and everything else, but I try to, when I do these questions and answers and stuff, I really try to take a lot of time and think out the answers. And I'm doing that because I know it's just that. It's a frenzy when you're signing these papers. So The next question, I told you, deals with what we were just talking about. And Susan 49C. Now, this is my opinion. It holds no weight. I'm just the knucklehead on the internet. I'm not a professional in all this. I have nothing to do with the Villages. There's all my disclaimers. So Susan writes, what is your opinion about the condos or townhouses that had the wrong color roof? When they purchased their place and now find out it's in violation of the restrictions. The report said they bought their home and the color of the roof was already there. Now, if, and this is just my opinion, doesn't mean anything, if you had done what I told you before, one, if the people with the roofs had simply gone to ARC and said, we're changing, that we're having a new roof put on, does this meet your approval? It's simple. It's not that hard. Just do it. That wouldn't have been a problem because it would have been approved or it would have been disapproved. And they would have told you what color you need to do. Two, if you're the buyer, if you had said to your agent, I need you to have a disclosure, anything that was done to the home while they owned it, period. Any major things done to the outside of the home or whatever that would have needed approval or permits. It's not, if you read the disclosures, and this is just going back from my, they always say, to the best of your knowledge. Well, there is no best of your knowledge. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you widen the driveway? You don't have to ask the specific questions, just whatever was done, and have them sign a disclosure. It's not all that hard, and the people selling the house may not have even known. The thing is, it's not the buyer's fault, but once they buy the home, now you have a legal battle between the buyer and the agent has to get involved. It's a headache for everybody. Just get the disclosure that nothing's been done. So this was basically, you already knew what my answer was ahead of time. And ARC is not your enemy. They're your friend. So I know it seems like they're your enemy, but just get the stuff approved. It's not that hard. Think about this for a second. You've heard me say this on other things. When you move into one of these neighborhoods, it's deed restriction. You're making a pact, not with the villages, not with a developer, you're making it with your neighbors. And you're saying, hey, I want to move into the neighborhood that you've created. And I realize that there's all these rules and regulations, not all these, they're kind of minor actually, that you need to get these things approved. You can't have certain color things. You can't put tchotchkes out in the yard. I understand that. That's what made this neighborhood great. I want to move in. So you made that pact with your neighbors. So just uphold it, go through standards, go through ARC, and get things approved. Anyway, that's it. Moving on. This is pretty much a statement, thank you, whatever. I had done, and I'll put a picture of both of them up here, part 1 and a part 2 of maintenance around the house. I really believe this. I take one day out of the year, and sometimes some of those things need to be done every 6 months, but take that time out, and I just run through this whole checklist and do those things dealing with the house. That way, it really is a preventative thing and helps out down the road. And so I'll put the links down to those down below. And Jody writes, I'm not gonna read this whole thing, I'll just kind of paraphrase it. Rusty, you would not believe I made it in 10 minutes into your informative video, and she actually went and checked the microwave. So there's some filters, grease filters that are down below the microwave. And I just had the house recently built and just moved in here in November 2022. So your instruction video is very helpful for that. And thank you very much. So she went and looked and she didn't even have them in there. So the builder had not even put them in there. So especially when you move in the first year in your house, you really need to go through this. And I divided it up into 2 parts. One's a lot of the stuff outside, one's stuff inside. Some of the stuff you can have professionals come in and do, or you can do it yourself. But most of it is stuff you can do yourself. So on to the next one. Here's a good question. I'm just going to read this right up. DM Lagrange, whatever it is. Sorry about that. I totally screwed it up. Are there any units that have fenced-in yards? Well, I didn't think there were. I didn't see any place where you could have fenced-in yards. I'll tell you, show you what you can do. But I was actually out on a walk. Let me tell you this story. I'm out on a walk, and I'm walking down about a mile and a half from here or so. I'm walking up a path, and I'm looking on either side of me, and there's 2 homes there with white picket fences out in the backyards. Now, I looked up the deed restrictions, and it says no fences. So I'm not sure how these people did this or how it came to be, but it's like right out in the open. So I may be missing something. I don't know. But here's my philosophy about it. 3 doors down, those people moved in there thinking that nobody was allowed to put fences around their yard. At least that's the way I understand this. So your neighbor moves in, they go, no deed restrictions. And then here's where the problems begin. They sell their home, not the house with the fence, but the people that move in 2 doors up. Now, these 2 people have had the fence there for 3 or 4 years because the neighbors have just bit their tongue and not said anything, right? Now, all of a sudden, the new person comes in, buys the house, and goes, I didn't think we were allowed to have fences. And the agent goes, no, you're not allowed to have fences. They turn around and complain about it, and then they have to move it. Then they get all mad and say, well, we've had it there for 5 years. This is one of the things I just dislike about this system. I know it's gone on for years, and you got 130-some thousand homes with it, but I'm telling you right now, it's not working. My opinion is because they simply have let it go awry, and my opinion. But here's the thing, because I know you met Sonia earlier in the video, she has a dog. So there are places that you can buy, and I'll flick one up here. If you go back and look at my video, I think it's called the Arlington, that I went on a lifestyle and I stayed there. There was this backyard. So there are some that are kind of cocked on lots that do have these type of areas. And you can talk to your agent or agents, or you can put it on the filter. You want a corner lot or whatever, or has a larger lot like that, or a larger yard. But there are, as far as I know, there are not any fenced-in yards, which I am so happy about, because then you have problems with repair, people not keeping them up. Now, in my home, there is a small, because it is a view lot, there is a small fence in the back. So that's kind of the way you can get around it, but you'd have to have a squirrel or something to keep them inside that fence. Anyway, on to the next one. Next question is kind of should be near and dear to everybody's heart down here in the Villages, because we are a huge area for lightning. So please take heed to this. Now, I did cover this in the maintenance videos that I just talked about right before this. So it does talk about those on the interior one, which I believe was part 2. But here I'll just flick up 2 of the surge protectors that I was talking about. And here, let me read through this question. It says, are the outlet surge protectors in addition to the Seco option for the whole house surge protection? Great info video. Thank you, Rusty. So what you're doing is, first of all, nothing you're going to get is going to be totally prevent you from anything, this giant slap of thunder and lightning and everything else, or it hits your house. It's not going to help you out at all. But you're trying to build up layers of protection, and that's basically what I did. I have one from my electric company, whoever that is, whether you have Leesburg or Seco or whoever it is, they just put one on the outside. They can put one on the meter, or you can have one put on the circuit breaker cabinet. That's one layer. And then I put another layer, which is these 2 different, like the white one is on my washing machine. Now, my washing machine and my dryer are both fairly expensive because I am kind of a gadget guy, so I needed to have one that basically got up and rubbed my back. But, I put that surge protector on there. Not only that, because you can have big surges, and every time that happens, you tend to start wearing things down. But also remember, with these surge protectors, the one that are inside for your outlet, which is just another layer, they also start to wear out. That's why they say you should replace them after 3 years or so, whatever that may be, depending on it. But I'll put the links down to the ones that I use down below, and those are the ones that I have on the inside of my house, and I do have another layer through a surge protection on the outside of the house, which does come with a little kind of insurance from the electric company. On to the next one. Here we go again. I hate to keep getting stuck on these things, but I'll tell you what, I do get a lot of complaints. So, for all you folks that are out there breaking the ARC rules and walking around and saying, well, nobody really cares, or it's not a big deal, so on and so on. It is a big deal, and I'm starting to see a lot of this. And part of it I do blame on the Villages. I mean, the developer, because they are just not keeping up with it and they're not enforcing it. And I have some pretty good stories coming up, that kind of investigative reporting, that, shall I say, that's going to come up. So make sure you subscribe for that, because there are going to be some good ones. But here's, and I get these notes all the time. So here it is. And it's the sampler series, I guess is what it is. Not anonymous. A friend of mine emailed the district to ask about a neighbor's lawn, rules on mowing and upkeep of the grass. The district shared the complaining neighbor's contact info and the content of the complaint in question. According to my friend, you can call and complain anonymously, but if you put something down in writing, that's public info. Right. So let me explain this first of all, the way I understand it. If you go up and you deliver something to them, or you make a complaint up at the office, or you call on the phone, it can be anonymous. The problem is when you do something like that to a public office, the email and that correspondence now becomes public. I'm not an attorney. I'll work for the Villages, all the rest of that stuff. But that is the way that I understand it. So if you want to make an anonymous complaint, you either have to go up in person, you don't have to give them your name, and just make the complaint. If you want, you can call them up and just make the complaint. Now, let me read the rest of this. And for your information, the neighbor was hostile when they found out that someone complained about their lawn. It wasn't a good situation. Anonymous would have been better. Yeah. And, there's people, I get letters, well, that's just, they buckle up and they're all like, I'm a big bad boogeyman or something. I don't understand why my neighbor couldn't just come over and say it to my face. Well, just that type of attitude is why they don't want to come say it to your face. They shouldn't have to. You are the one that is causing the problem. And I have to be honest, if I got an email or a note or a phone call from ARC saying that I was not in compliance with something, first of all, I would feel bad for my neighbors, because I'd feel sorry that I put them in a position where they had to not enjoy their life in the Villages for a day. Now, whether you agree, whether you should be able to put some little tchotchke or the Oscar Mayer wiener in your yard, that's not a question. You moved into the neighborhood, you agreed to play nice in the sandbox with all the neighbors by doing this. So it is a problem, because when these people, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. If they make it anonymous, they're going to get mad because they tattled, or they say they tattled. You're not tattling. Oops, sorry about that. You're not tattling to the developer. You're doing exactly what the deed restrictions say. So if you want to do it anonymously, the big takeaways from this is go up there in person and talk to them. 2, call them on the phone. If you supply an email, then that email address and so on becomes public information. But as you can see, here's a perfect example that walking and banging up on somebody's door and saying, your lawn's a little messy. It's a lot easier just to go up and say, hey, these people aren't keeping their neighborhood up. Because think about this. This really it is not good when you go to sell your home. And I'm going to tell you a quick story here real quick. When we were at an open house, and I was out there with Sonia, we went to one of those homes where next door was, I would say, probably 25 tchotchkes, anywhere from like this big to 3 feet, from eagles to pigs to turtles to all these different things. Now, to the people that say, oh, well, it's just one little thing, that one little thing has turned into a whole family. And when I talk to the real estate agent, their eyes just rolled back into their head because they know, they're not going to tell me this, but they know that that devalues the next door neighbor's home that's selling their home. It's just the way it is, folks. It's the same thing that if you live on a street where there's cars and trucks parked all over the place on the street, that devalues your home simply because this is not that type of neighborhood. Anyway, let's do one last one here and see what we come up with because I have no idea what the next question is. Hey, don't forget, I am going storm chasing, so make sure you have subscribed and that you're hitting the notification for all, so you hit that bell. Even if you are already subscribed, make sure you have that bell hit for all. I just corrected a friend of mine because he couldn't understand why he wasn't getting notified about stuff. Also, those questions I had in the beginning about the squares, the concrete squares that are along all the pathways, and also what in the world happened to our hospital with all these new people, influx of people coming in here. Where are our hospital and doctors? Anyway, the next question from Debbie, it says, can members visit any villages and rec centers in the region, the entire place? Now, before I get started, for all of us that live here, we understand this, but you got to kind of take yourself back to before you got down here, and that's where I was. I had no concept of, well, can you go here? Can you go here? What are the rules? You know, think about it. We've got 700, almost 750 holes of golf, 114 rec centers. There's almost 250 pickleball courts, right? So from somebody from the outside, they're going to look at this and go, God, can I use all these things? The answer is pretty much yes, Debbie. Everything is at your disposal, and that's one of the great things about the Villages. Yes, it is huge, but it's kind of tough to get tired of stuff because you don't like one course, you go play another one. You don't like one rec center, you go try another one. And they have different things at each one of these places. Now, there are a couple of tiny places, like I think there's a couple of private clubs around. There's a private restaurant, and there's a couple, I think there's a private country club and pool and that type of thing, but very minimal. But you have access to everything here. So that's it, Debbie. Come down here, do a lifestyle visit. I think you'll be absolutely amazed, especially with that question. And you'll have a great time, I'm sure. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody or anybody that can answer those questions. I very much appreciate it. I am literally packing up right as I'm making this video and getting ready. In case you don't understand what I'm doing, I am a guide. I take people out storm chasing. We chase tornadoes, a lot of photographers from all over the world. And hopefully if I run into something where I have time, I will come up live on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed to get notified. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I will either see you back here on YouTube or I'll see you down in the Villages. You have a wonderful rest of the July.